Take 6, roll 5.
Can you ask me that question again?
There was some suggestion that the account given by an Australian journalist who escaped from being shot by the Viet Cong in that ambush in Cholon was not altogether true.
No, a number of us, most of us there at the time, had serious reservations about the accuracy of that story. A lot of things didn't gel, they didn't add up, and we believe since that things that that journalist himself has said, that he wasn't actually there. He was in the area, he had been on the vehicle, but he probably got off it a couple of blocks before. He may have heard the firing, may have even seen something in the distance.
Has it got something to do with a man going to war zone trying to prove himself that would make someone do that?
Well, I think it's possible that journalist hadn't actually been in combat before or since, and he's known not to let accuracy get in the way of a very good story.
You had a hasty exit from Phnom Penh. Can you tell me why?
Oh yes, well of course the communists were coming, and they were already in the city on the outskirts. I lived there, I had an apartment with all my furniture and a car and everything else that goes with it. There was no way out anyway, so I had to abandon everything because the Americans evacuated and the support for the Lon Nol government was given up. And obviously the city was going to fall to the Cambodian communists within 2 or 3 days.
You couldn't stay there like you'd stayed in Saigon?
No, I was quite convinced that the Cambodian communists were going to do pretty awful things, as they were doing on their way towards the city anyway.
Did you get any film of that at all, what they were doing or what they did?
Well, I got film of massacres in villages, massacres of villages over the years, including right up to the last 2 or 3 days before I left. And it was very clear what they were going to do. I didn't know they would do what they did when they come in, that was evacuate in cities and thousands and tens of thousands, 100,000 killed.
Critics of the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong say that Cambodia is a classic example of what was going to happen in Vietnam when the communists took over. Are they similar in terms of...
No, not at all. There was no evidence at all that the Vietnamese were going to do that. In fact, quite the contrary. As they were taking over various parts of the countryside, they were certainly occupying, but there weren't these massacres. And they were well-trained troops and well-trained cadre. You're going back 30 years for their initial beginning. With the Cambodians, it was 5 years, and so they hadn't developed their philosophy.
Was there any future for a journalist caught by the Khmer Rouge?
No, none at all.
What would they do?
Kill them. That's what they did with all of them.
Slowly, or...? I
don't know. There is evidence that there were some tortured and killed, but the Khmer Rouge never have let a journalist go.
Can you tell the time when you were forced to pull some bodies over yourself to survive?
Oh, that was back maybe 1965 or 66 in Vietnam. We were very close combat. We were very hard pressed. The Vietnamese unit I was with was very hard pressed, and the combat was at times hand to hand, so that the air support from the South Vietnamese fighter bombers was very, very close, within 50 meters and even closer, and therefore it was very, very dangerous. And a number of killed were killed on our side, not by the bombing, but some were wounded by the shrapnel from the bombs, and a number of our people had been killed anyway in the crossfire. So that as the shrapnel was getting very dangerous from our own bombing, I lay down alongside one body and pulled another one sort of half over me, as protection, as a sort of wall, and half over me.
That's all you could do. There was no...
There was no other cover. No.
Have you been caught in a situation out in the clear where you've had to hug the ground for hours?
Yeah, several hours. And the main danger there is not from bullets, not from gunfire, but from mortar shells, or artillery if it exists, but mainly mortar shells and launched grenades. So it's like hand grenades, but which can be launched from a rifle. And as they're bursting around, of course, the shrapnel is great danger.
What's your advice to a young freelance journalist or cameraman who wants to go into a war zone?
Do exactly what the soldiers do, as long as they're experienced, because they know. To follow their lead, walk in their footsteps, because there may be booby traps. And if if they come into action, do exactly what they do. Hit the ground when they do, retreat when they do, advance when they do, actually, because you're with them and you're in a bad situation if you don't go with them.
Have you ever been in an aircraft when it's been hit by enemy fire?
Been in a helicopter that was shot down, yes.
What happened there?
Well, it was in 1972 in a big offensive by the North Vietnamese. There was a counter-offensive by the South Vietnamese Marines who went in big helicopters, carrying about 50 men in each helicopter. And as they landed right on top, virtually, of a North Vietnamese position, there was a lot of gunfire, and the high tail of the helicopter I was in was blown off. But it crashed from only about 20 feet. But it completely broke apart, and nobody was seriously wounded, actually.
You just took off?
Well, we all did. We got down faster than we thought we would, and all got out faster than we thought.
Okay. Cut. This is a wild track with interview with Davis.